Welcome all of you all. We are told we are living in a VUCA world, but actually let's add an extra C to VUCA, courtesy the SARS-CoV-2 virus or COVID 2019. So VUCA from now onwards will be spelled as VUCCA, double CA. That's volatility, unpredictability, complexity, coronavirus, and ambiguity. The additional C is making VUCA even more pronounced for all of us, whether in business or in marketing. We have already seen through lockdown 1.0 as a country pretty successfully, and we are in lockdown 2.0. 20th April is the date we are all keeping an eye on, as the Prime Minister will see how we as a nation have done during the lockdown. Have we managed to control COVID 2019's spread? The numbers are looking impressive. They're showing signs of falling in some states, but testing has to ramp up even more and has to go even deeper until we conquer this dreaded microbe, which has decimated nearly 150,000 individuals in just a few months. Will there be a lockdown 3.0? What about 4.0? Some predictions are that most likely we'll need another month of a total shutdown to be absolutely sure that we don't have a relapse of the spread of COVID 2019. Opening up early can be detrimental. Nonetheless, for us as businessmen, this is going to be challenging as well as an opportunity. For we have our brands to nurture, we have to generate revenue, and we also have to do our campaigns for our clients. And doing all that, of course, we have to do that because we've got to pay our bills for the businesses that we run. And in the second of our series of roundtables, the first was on with deans of academic institutions. We have a panel that is deeply entrenched on the front lines in their respective jobs, marketing or creating campaigns for marketers, to give us the insights. Let me begin by asking each of the panelists, what exactly has lockdown meant for you all and the entire COVID situation meant for you all in terms of your brand, in terms of marketing, the operations, and the way you all are functioning? What has it meant for each one of you all? I'll begin with Smita to start with.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me here. It seems like a wonderful panel, and thank you for hosting this. Let me just start by saying I think COVID has been a great leveler for all of us as professionals and as brands. I come from the category of sleep solutions, where mattresses are one of the main products that we sell. Now, before COVID, I think there was a lot of influx of brands, a lot of startup brands, a lot of age-old brands, and there was a lot of discounting that started happening, and all sales mechanisms that was in full play. I think with COVID, positively speaking, it's become a great leveler, and brands which really stand for a purpose have come out. So for us, honestly, this has been a good time to really talk about what we stand for, which is sleep solutions, and bring forth that to the community. We've also looked at everybody as people, so really not looked at the external people as consumers and potential communication for commercial gains, and internal people as employees. But we've tried to look at everybody around as people and just see what is the conversation that we can make which is most relevant during these times. One of such conversations is really sleep for immunity, because sleep is one of the main pillars that helps immunity and helps build resistance to such diseases. And as soon as COVID became a reality in India and our PM announced the lockdown, we released the campaign of gaining knowledge on sleep for immunity. So I think overall what we've done is really stayed true to our purpose, remember it, relive it, and totally without any commercial gains. I think that's when the real hallmark of a long-standing brand and a trustworthy brand really happens, because when there's no commercial gains involved, there's no pressure to sell. That's a real conversation that you can make. So as of now, we're making real conversations, starting with sleep for immunity. We released a campaign recently last week, which is about staying in rejoicing moments in bed, because the bed is being used for multi-purposes these days, not only sleep, and it needs to be comfortable, it needs to be a happy place. So an emotional connect on that. We've also tied up with a lot of influencers, leading influencers, to do a live from home series on fitness and health tips from home. So overall, our entire communication and endeavor has been to really get everybody together to talk about and relive the topic that we know best. So we are not trying to make any claims outside what we stand for. We are still staying true to what we believe in and the business that we are in. but without commercial gains for this purpose. That's as far as the brand goes. As an organization, we are led by a very young leading team. And I think this whole time has also been a leveler in terms of the older, more experienced group coming together with the more younger millennial group, adopting digital technologies, getting together and having Zoom meetings, town halls. And we adopted all this pretty early on. We've also asked our team members to sign up for digital courses, upskill themselves. So this whole time period has been utilized very positively to talk about how do we plan for future, how do we upskill ourselves as resources, how do we prepare for tomorrow while staying relevant for today. I think it's very important to keep your people and the network around you very positive, because it's very easy to get carried away with all sorts of predictions that are being made. I think if you hear any webinars or any conversations right from one end of the spectrum to the other end, all sorts of extreme recommendations are happening. So it's best to just understand what business you're in, what opportunities lay ahead, and be positive about it and pass the tide. While of course there's no denying it's the toughest period that we've all experienced in our collective lifetimes. I think it's important to stay positive. So that's the kind of direction we've taken.
Fantastic. Really heartening to know that there's no commercial benefit you're weighing in mind. Is that the same with Ajay and Timex? How have you all been dealing with this entire lockdown?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me on this panel discussion today. So starting with COVID-19, initially when we were hearing about COVID-19, what's happening in China, because we have some supplies which come from China. But this is totally unprecedented. We had never anticipated this kind of situation in India. And I think initially when we began, it was mainly about the anxiety and the curiosity around this topic. But then when we really challenged ourselves and when we really witnessed this lockdown situation in India, I think the first and foremost priority was to safeguard the safety of our workforces across different countries. So Timex Global, they took a decision to shut down factories in different parts of the world. And similarly in India, we took a decision to shut down our factories and first and foremost to safeguard the safety of our employees. Then I think from this anxiety mode, we moved towards the some fear and panic situation where in a lockdown situation, how things will shape up, how will we cope up with this situation. This was totally unexpected for us. So at that point in time, as an organization, we had this challenge of staying connected with each other and at the same time staying productive. So and then now we are kind of witnessing acceptance stage where we really acknowledge the situation. It's a grave situation, and hopefully we are staying positive. We'll come out of it. So during this lockdown situation, initially the safety of our employees or the workforce. Then regarding our brand communication, regarding our internal communication, regarding our external communication. So we have large workforce across working in different parts of the world. So being a Timex community which is connected, we have folks working in Italy, in US, in other parts of the world. So all are really deeply affected because of COVID-19 situation. So internal communication is very important. Internal communication is something which we pay utmost attention to, because staying at home and not getting proper communication from different subsidiaries from different parts of the world could lead to a difficult situation. So therefore, we have a good internal Instagram pages, intranet we are using to connect with our different folks in different countries. As far as this external communication is concerned with the consumers, I think Timex as a brand, we really stand for our stakeholders, for our consumers, and for our associated partners. So the main focus was to really come out with a messaging which really boost the health and the other aspects of our consumers and associates, which are really important at this point in time. So from the brand perspective, the idea was to really communicate with the consumers, and we had this campaign going on before this COVID-19, which is we don't stop. So it really stands for this movement of Timex being a 175 years old brand, and we really keep challenging ourselves. We really keep innovating ourselves. So we really kind of continued this campaign, and then tried to be really relevant with the present situation, where we really tweaked our communication, saying that if you are staying indoors, you need not to stop, be it your learning, be it your health, be it your other parts of daily activity. So we have one segment of watches which are really focused on fitness and health. We recently launched smartwatches in India. So the communication slightly shifted towards communicating with our consumers to talk about more health and fitness tips. And then there are a large number of apps installed on the handsets of our consumers, be it through the tech watches, be it through the fitness bands. Also, we have app for registering paperless warranty. So all those apps were used to give push notifications, constant reminders to our consumers about the health and hygiene. So I think from a brand perspective, initially from safeguarding the safety and then staying connected with the larger workforce, we tweak the communication with our consumers, the relevant consumers, the topical communication about COVID-19, various precautions to be taken during this time, health and safety tips. And then we have different brands. So each brand has its own positioning, its own DNA. So we within that the ecosystem of the brand DNA, we try to communicate with our consumers and try to make our communication relevant for the during the present situation. So one was communicating through digital platform using social media channels. And other important, I think, which really helped us is the communication through apps.
Communication through
apps
through different apps.
Yeah,
that you own, and the fitness apps where you kept on.
Yes. So consumers who bought our smartwatches and fitness bands and power, they have installed apps in their mobile phones. And also recently we launched an app to check the authenticity of Timex watches. And it also helps consumers to register for paperless warranty. So all those apps put together, we kind of use this platform to trigger a push notification to our consumers about the health, safety, and hygiene tips.
Fantastic. That's really enlightening. That a watch brand is also finding ways to stay in touch with their consumers and forming communities. Hopefully, you move on to forming communities.
Yes, exactly.
To communicate with them regularly.
Yes, and all our consumers, although we believe the quality in Timex watches, but we also extended the warranty of our Timex watches for all the consumers. And that communication was again pushed out through the notification to the apps, and we got overwhelming response from our consumers.
Fantastic. So now I'll move on to an agency. Prachi, I'll make you wait for a while because the brands have spoken.
No hassles.
Yeah. So coming down to Sanjay, you've been around for a long time. You've been an entrepreneur. What has this entire scenario meant for you as an agency? Now you're a part of the WPP group, and what has it meant for you as an agency? The entire COVID situation.
Yeah.
Sanjay?
So obviously, like my fellow panelists have mentioned, I think it kind of took us all by surprise. I mean, while we were seeing the situation develop in China, I don't think none of us really anticipated it to become such a strong force and so disruptive for us in India. So there we were in January and February, on a pretty good, momentum for business, a lot of growth happening for our clients and for us. And, we were scaling up the business, the team size and everything. All of a sudden, this hit us. And even at the beginning, it was about just coping with the lockdown and making sure that people are able to work from home and keeping the organization operational at one end. Also, obviously, working on, HR related issues of emotional balance management for the team, because this is not something which a lot of the young people have ever seen. I mean, not that we have seen it in our lives, even with our gray hair and everything. But for the young people, it was obviously, a lot of them staying alone, their families being in a different city. So finding ways to handle the emotional balance, finding ways to get them working, finding ways to ensure the collaboration tools are in place, because finally work is a collaborative effort. So getting all those things, I mean, that luckily with today's technology and tools availability, we were able to get most of those operational issues in place within about 4-5 days. And we got the HR and everybody got going with a lot of initiatives to keep people continue to be engaged and motivated and, in better spirits. And then came, of course, the impact of all of this from a client's perspective. And we have been reviewing business for us from across various clients pretty much on a week-to-week basis. And interestingly, we did not have a very high exposure to some of the sectors which are most impacted, like travel and hospitality and some of those, because I'm sure if you had those kinds of clients, there would have been like very quick and very large hurt on the revenue front, on business front. We did not have those. So initially, as we were reviewing client by client, impact from anything happening and slowdown, we saw initial signs, a little reduction here, a little there. But as the weeks have progressed, what we have seen is that more and more clients are getting into a kind of a defensive mode in some sense, simply because I think the end game is not known. So if it was a known thing that, okay, years, couple of weeks or years, 4 weeks, we're going to be shut and then things will get back to a certain level of normalcy, that being a huge unknown factor in this particular case. For example, the first thing is that a lot of them have cut down on media spends, and that's a fairly large vertical for us, and we've had to take that hit. And others are obviously there are conversations around retainer, there are conversations around some of them choosing to pause marketing completely, and some of those initial impacts we have seen, which have of course impacted us from our business perspective. That said, what we are also hearing in parallel is that this, unlike an economic ups and downs which happen pretty much every now and then, this would have a much longer lasting impact from the way business is run. And obviously all of us are seeing the significant growth in use of digital means and digital tools. And even now, as we hear, if something is going to resume, it's going to be e-commerce and deliveries of all products through e-commerce, even beyond essential services. So if anything which is being driven home to businesses at this time, it's that, it's the digital is the way to go. One, from a pure operational, digital processes and digital transformation perspective. And, consequently, once business resumes, once sales resume, once stores reopen, obviously you will have the need to sell as well. And I mean, we do see that there will be a certain reduction of people, mingling out there. I don't see in the very near future any sports events happening, for example.
Yeah, that's for the future. That's another question, Sanjay.
Because of that, we are seeing the likelihood of the return to, if anything, the digital transformation could be accelerated. Those are the kind of conversations which are happening with clients now, but that's for once things settle down. But right now, it's kind of hasn't had an impact. And the aspect of the WPP thing which you brought out is very, very interesting and very relevant. So it is a huge support to be part of a network, because there is a lot of thought process happening at that network level, and which includes, human resource issues, a point of view on COVID, a point of view on what brands need to do at this time. There's a global thought. There's lots of people who are coming together and coming and creating those perspectives which we are able to share, and as well as a lot of learning happening together as a part of the network. So all that is of course very useful compared to being an independent agency.
Fantastic. No, but the question was, when it happened, operation-wise, you could manage to transport terminals home or computers home, so that you're more of a digital solutions partner. You're not classically an agency, right? So I think you have websites to develop, you have apps to develop, you have.
So luckily we are in a cloud-based world today. So a lot of the apps that we use, a lot of the data sits on, of course, very secure cloud, spaces. So that was not, nothing except for a good quality hardware on which a designer works. Other than that, pretty much everything is portable as long as somebody has a good internet connection and a machine. So a lot of people already had laptops which they were able to just pick it up and take home and start working from there. Some of the high-end machines, which obviously were not easy to sort of replicate in terms of on laptops, Luckily, we had a few days time where we were proactive before government shut everything down. We were moving on a work from home scenario ahead of time. And we used that time to actually move the physical desktop machines to those people's homes. So we got that time and pretty much got everything set up. And of course, we rented a bunch of machines and all, which we were able to do.
Yeah, but so you're ready to do work, but there's not enough work coming. Is that true?
Actually, I mean, I'm really surprised that, and I tweeted something recently that I and a lot of our team members are busier than ever. I have back-to-back calls. I mean, it's like literally, 5 o'clock, one call gets over, another call starts. And the same is with a lot of our team members, but revenue probably is down. So I kind of tweeted that how busy you are has nothing to do with how much money you're making. So, I mean, the point is that we're still very busy, fortunately.
No, I'm talking about work, productive work, which is revenue, getting you revenue.
So what we're doing is a lot of brands want to go out and do something interesting from the COVID point of view, whether it is a perspective around safety or what they are doing for their team, or what just a message around social distancing and things of that kind. And working from home, not exactly collaborating, it takes a little more effort to put together, let's say, the same video which you would have done if everybody was sitting next to each other and collaborating. So it's taking a little extra overhead to put that together. I think at least the team says that they are working till late evenings and whatever. So I think the client's keeping us busy for sure.
Fantastic. So going on to Prachi now. Prachi, in terms of you represent a fashion brand, but there's a adjunct to it, which is your big bazaar stores, which are like saviors today to a lot of people because they're supplying essential goods. So as a group, I don't know if you're also privy to what's going on at Big Bazaar. I'm sure you would be, since you're sold an adjunct to the Big Bazaar outlets. I'm a frequenter to your Big Bazaar outlet at Infinity in Andheri. So what has it meant to you as a marketer? And to your colleagues in the Big Bazaar side, what has this entire thing meant for you all?
Okay. Thank you so much. And thanks for putting up that point, saying that whether or not we are a part of an active Big Bazaar working process or not, the answer to that is yes. Personally, I don't only look after ABB, I look after a lot of brands for Big Bazaar as well. So that actually gives me a lot of active activity inclusion inside the Big Bazaar store. Having said that, the primary team which works on the fashion brand is now actively involved in what we are doing for Big Bazaar as well. So what has it meant for us? I have something to share. I know most of us are going through the same pain points, and I have an instance to share from how fast it changed for all of us. Generally, we are most of us follow a part of Monday morning calls. And I remember this call a day before Holi, which was 9th of March, wherein we were reviewing our weekly sale. And while we were in that meeting, there were a few nervous discussion about the situation around the countries about COVID. And I was in Delhi, and I remember Delhi was one of the first space along with Kerala. And I remember the conversation being that it was a lukewarm approach to how we are going into the situation. None of us realized the week later we will be virtually sitting in a war room discussing on how fast we can arrange everything to be able to set up the process working from home, or the process going within the next 2 days. How are we going to look at the week that had Holi in it? That was the weekend which set the entire country running into panic buying. And as a team, we knew that we were gearing up for a really long haul for Big Bazaar. And from a fashion perspective also, we knew that we are looking at a spell of an extended dry spell of the stores being out of action for a really long time. So from a overall group perspective, Yes, we're absolutely spine strong on the food business. We are definitely making sure that the essentials are being met. On the fashion business, of course, as along with all my peer fashion brands, we at this point of time are definitely bleeding dry, and that's a space we are in from a business perspective. From a brand voice perspective, where are we? And I heard my fellow marketeers and peers also speaking about it. This is not a space to be marketing anything. I always say, before marketeers, all of us are consumers. What is it that I would like to hear from a brand I engage with is imperative for me, what I am going to be speaking to my consumer. For a Big Bazaar consumer, for any consumer at this point of time, I think an operational strength from an essentials is an imperative voice for me. Nothing beats that. Nothing beats a service at this point of time that we are going to extend as a brand Big Bazaar. From a fashion perspective or from a beauty perspective, at this point of time, all I'm going to do is to keep my customer engaged. There is no push, there is no pull on the brand that's going to happen. This is not a space and time for us to be pushing or pulling on sales. At this point of time, the only thing we are going to do as a brand, and I think there have been a lot of brands who have done a fantastic job at this, who are going to keep the customers engaged. And that's going to be true for me as a brand at this point of time.
Fantastic. But you also have the likes of the Levers and the PNGs who are, if you watch Doordarshan, they're pushing the Ariel 10 rupee sachet. That's PNG. So what do you have to say about that? I'll ask this question to the other panelists also later, but if you could respond now.
Absolutely.
So you're looking at it as an opportunity.
I don't think there is anything wrong in what my peers are doing at this point of time, if that helps them for the cash inflow. At this point of time, business has to have the cash inflow, and the requirement of the entire country has been at this point of time to lay low a certain part. It has brought along an inherent change in how we are buying stuff now. People who never used to hoard have started hoarding. People who never used to buy smaller packs of anything have started buying smaller packs of things. So these things, as I hear from my marketing peers as well, saying that something that we have never experienced, and we don't know how consumers are reacting to this. Take for example, when I look at myself as a consumer, I don't hoard, I don't buy certain stuff at all. From a food essential. But at this point of time, if you open up my pantry, those things are also stocked up for me. So I don't mind any of the brand at this point of time trying to push or pull any of the stock keeping unit that they have on any of this. And by the way, I don't watch Doordarshan at all.
Good Lord. I mean, the country is watching it. The most watched. 457.
Maybe I moved the other way.
457 GRPs, twice as much as any private channel.
Exactly, absolutely. Not my money on it.
Okay, great. I understand you don't have stores in the interiors, but you will have someday.
No, absolutely. I actually have a point to that. No, we do have stores in our interiors. At this point of time, it is even pinching more, primarily because out of 300 stores, only 150 odd are functional. And most of the ones which are not functional are the small stores which are in smaller towns and markets. So we are definitely a space. We're definitely there.
Fantastic. I'm going on to a platform now. I'll leave Harjot for the last, the best for the last. No offense to Harjot.
No worries on it.
You're from Delhi. You're from up north, right? So,
yep.
Fantastic. So Rahul, Shemaroo started its OTT platform, Shemaroo Me, sometime back. Then you all decided to get into a TV channel. Then you're looking at more channels. So what has it been for you as a digital player and as a TV player both? You started a Marathi channel. What has it been as a digital player and as a Marathi channel for you all this entire period? What has it been for you, Rahul? The period.
Okay, yeah. So I think some really good, insightful conversations happening here. We're on the other side, entertainment actually seeing a huge surge. And
not the most fortunate way of getting customers on board. But the fact is that OTT platforms are seeing a huge surge on content consumption. So if you ask from an OTT perspective, at this point of time, essentially because we're a very, unabashedly Indian OTT player in the market, we are seeing massive surge happening from metros and non-metros alike. Bollywood is somehow becoming very, very pertinent to everybody's life. So entertainment in a way is becoming an essential commodity for most people, just like health is becoming as important right now. So we do as a brand have a role to play here. We don't want to be, it's not the best way of acquiring customers, but now that we are getting customers to come to us, I think as a brand, we're doing a couple of things to engage with these set of people. Entertainment also plays a role of educating customers or audiences about the COVID safety, etc. So we're doing a combination of letting people know through Bollywood as well, maybe beyond the current metros, smaller towns as well. How do we educate people about, the COVID customers they have to manage? So we're using all of those elements, making our brand go out to more and more people. Any which ways, a lot of WhatsApp videos are using Bollywood content to, in some humor, talking about, social distancing, etc. So we're trying to be part of these conversations. We're seeing good growth on the OTT front. Similarly, on the television front as well, there is a huge spike. There is no longer, a weekday, weekend phenomena happening as such on television anymore. Every day is becoming, equally.
In terms of consumption, but in terms of consumption, I think they've said this. Everyone's seeing a drop.
That's right. Advertising 100% has seen a drop. So while we are growing our subscription business on our Shimarumi OTT platform, some of our other businesses are seeing, decline in terms of revenue opportunities. So essentially, with the role, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to ensure if the consumers are coming to us at this time of need, we offer them the best we can. So we kind of making a product as friendly as possible for consumers. So, for example, you log on and you open the app, it'll probably ask you to wipe your screen because screen can also be a source of contamination. Things like those, small aspects, what we are bringing in, even internationally as well. Shimarumi, we tied up with the Indian consulates in the US and France, and we offered for Indians in that market who are stuck, students, etc. in the US, free Shimarumi subscriptions for 2 weeks or extended periods as well, so that they can actually keep engaged and stay at home and not go out. So, and also taking. So in terms of marketing, so the question is it a good time to be marketing yourself and
what kind of activities you can do as far as your brand? You already mentioned some of those. You said one things which are very basic, communicating, like Smita said earlier, also being without looking at commercial outcome as such.
Yes, that's not the focus for us at this point of time. As I mentioned, we want to keep it. So the growth has to be sustained for us as well. What we're seeing. So our attempt right now as a brand is to make sure that most users to OTT platforms come because of the content piece, not because of the brand, right? So we're trying to play a relevant role as a brand as well now.
Unless you're on Netflix, where people come.
Again, it's content-led, yeah. Unless it's content-led as well. So we're just trying to build that equation right now. Not the best situation, but yeah, we are working against all odds to make sure that we are able to build some brand love as well.
So, okay, I'll go on to Harjot now. Harjot, as an agency, you belong to one of the largest agency groups in the world. In terms of the COVID situation, how did you all manage that? And what has it meant for you, the fact that clients are unsure about what to do, as all the panelists have mentioned earlier? What has it meant to you all as an agency?
So, thanks, Anil. For us, actually, if I look at it from two sides, one is the commercial aspect and the other is the human aspect. So the human is our people, our clients, our partners, and all that. The commercial aspect, of course, slowed down and revenue slowed down, and that has been is something that we'll have strategies to overcome as we go ahead. But what this whole piece has been a beautifully enriching human experience. Right from moving everything work from home, we were kidding in our office. In fact, as far back as the 10th of March, I remember when we still hadn't even discussed anything about work from home. And all of a sudden, by I think the 13th of March, we were saying, guys, plan for it. And by 16th, it was all done. It was enriching to see how people just took to it, right from moving computers home to, and we were kidding in our office that we've been paying for Microsoft Teams for, I think, for the last 20, 25 years. And it's only this year that we've actually started using them.
Yeah.
But just that one training people came to, and in 48 hours, everything had been moved up. There were small teething issues. I mean, studio computers moving home don't have UPSs. In an office, you take it for granted. But at a home situation, what if the electricity goes, you lose all data and everything, and the guys were there. So you've got to hire UPSs and small things like that. But the way the people came together and in 48 hours managed to get everything moving from home. In fact, exactly on the 16th of March, our first artwork came from someone's house and was sent off to a press. Of course, post that it's not been able to get printed, but the artworks were going out. Color corrections on images was happening on shared screens.
Okay.
It is people who I would expect to be resistant to technology and change. I think just in 2 days made it happen. And that was a great thing. Post the Janta curfew and the actual lockdown is when I think we all just sat down. In fact, we had individual meetings with each of our clients. And the one thing that came out in all of that, it was unanimous, was that at the end of this period, however long it is, no brand is going to be really remembered for only what they have said. What's going to be way more important is how at the end of the day did the brand make the person feel. And if you make someone feel good, and that's again a human bit that I feel came out so strongly in all the brand thinking, that if you make people feel good, you're going to be able to get through this well and come out stronger at the other end. So all the teams just went back to saying, how can my brand make a consumer feel good? And that's the messaging strategy that across brands, across categories. I mean, we work from automobiles to consumer durables to FMCG to soft drinks. But across all brands, it was all about how can this brand make a consumer feel good at this
And
time.
your clients were receptive. All the brands were receptive. All the brands.
Across, because everyone realized that this is not the time where they're going to convert sales or any below the bottom of the funnel activity is really going to pay up. That's not going to happen. And let's accept it for what it is. But at the end of the day, if you want to come out stronger at the other end, you have to have people feeling good about your brand. And that's what everyone said, all right, let's just focus on that. And it's not as remunerative, but it is a lot more enriching, I felt, creating work with that brief in mind. And I think the teams, then the human part of the teams, just the creative teams having a blast creating stuff which just felt good. So we handle Honda cars, for example. I mean, what a time. Last year's not been a good year and this year's not looking good either. But we just managed to put out that at the end of the day, what do you miss in a lockdown? You miss a drive out. And why can't we just remind our consumers about that those days will come, and that's fine. So our creative team, Titus, actually just managed to get a lot of consumers within his colony and condominiums and all everyone got. And we just gave them one thing that tell us what you miss about a drive out. And they created a whole song around that with everyone washing utensils, but talking about a great drive in a car. And it just makes people feel good. Now that kind of content, once it got out, it started getting featured in a lot of the PR work, and a lot of views that it started getting is making more and more people feel good. Now, will I be able to point out exactly what conversion it results in at the end of it? I'm not sure. But the fact is, confident that it will come out stronger. Another brand, Canon, where we work on, it's a camera. It's not really a brand that can really do something different in this time or really help in some way at a product or a brand level. But small thing like if their brand core was do great photography, they just said that outside is irrelevant. Your photography is all about. So what are the moments at home that are great moments that you're capturing now?
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm a Canon diehard. I have all the cameras, right from the 5D.
Yeah, so I stand by those. The quality of that product is superb. Yeah. So you just got again crowdsourced stuff of your moments where you did great photography at home, and you get such nice moments because there is talent out there in this country that is superb, and it just came out, and such great work came out. I mean, our teams actually did a whole song where we made everyone sing "Just We Shall Overcome" in various bits, and the films department just did a great edit and had fun. Someone played on a guitar, someone on a sitar, and Someone just sang, and but it was just great stuff to do. And then how the bonding actually increased. I feel that this is a period where the client relationship index, if you were to quantify it, I think it's actually gone up better. Clients are genuinely talking to you about their problems on a regular basis. Whatever little you can do to help that the brand at that time is great. Everything is just moving. Right now, it is not commercial, it is not transactional, it is not logistical, because everything is a challenge. And I think these are the times in which human relationships improve, and client relationships are human relationships. And I feel that all our clients across the team, with the teams, have really come together closer. And even our teams, I mean, I handle 2 units. I handle Dentsu 1 and Taproot Dentsu also. So we've been doing pitches online. I mean, Microsoft Teams is a pitch thing. So some of our pitches didn't stop. RFPs have gone out, pitch dates have been done, presentations have been done. In the last 3 weeks, we've done 2 pitches online, and about 4 RFPs have been filled. So even business-wise, it's not stopping. And I think it's a great place for even clients to see which are the responsive agencies that can overcome and can be a true partner at the other end of it. Again, it's a very human evaluation. It is not an evaluation on what cost they are submitting. It is not an evaluation on what kind of structures they have and what kind of experience they have and all that. It is actually around what is the attitude they have. And for me, that also is such a human piece of this crisis that I am seeing. So for me, actually, this has been a completely enriching human experience up till now.
Great. Now, aren't the clients at all, interested in, especially let's look at a Prachi or a Smita in terms of, getting the brand, apart from the social aspect, getting the brand experience of purchasing happening in some way. Because if there's a disconnect, me buying a product, then will I move on to another product? Or will I forget about my brand affinity to that product? I'm just, I throw this open to all of y'all. Am I talking through my hat? Tell me I'm talking through my hat.
Smita, you want to go first?
Sure. So just before I answer that question, I'll talk about my journey at Duroflex itself. So I was at Duroflex just for about a month before the lockdown started. And it's a completely new category for me. I come from Prachi's world, completely fashion and lifestyle, 16 years in that, and totally to a different FMCG kind of a category. 1 month into it, thrown in the virtual world of building the brand, as well as trying to plan for the teams, the future, getting agencies on board. So pretty much everything that could have happened has happened to my journey here. But as Harjot was saying, I think it has been such an enriching experience, such a fulfilling experience of, I don't think I would have understood the core of the brand and the category as well as I understand it now in this shorter time. I wouldn't have understood the values and what the company stands for, the brand stands for, what each team members bring to the table in their true and honest sense, because April would have kicked off a very high season for us, and we would have been caught in executing campaigns which were really not from the heart. So net, I think for us as a team and as a brand custodian, it has really made us pause and for me start, and some of the others restart, and really get back to what we really stand for. So in that sense, it will be a long-term benefit that we'll be able to draw, and we'll not be carried, with all the discounts and, as I was saying, all the selling mechanisms that we
basically you won't get swayed by tactical strategies.
Yeah, we won't get swayed by tactical strategies. We won't get caught in being too overtly competitive, and we can really build this for the long run. And as I was saying, the categories was on the brink of really high growth, and it was a category which was moving from a very unbranded space to a more brand space. And this will only heighten now, because people would want in their homes better products, trusted products, high quality products. So I think that will definitely go up a lot faster. And how much of it can we take on is something now left to us. So in that sense, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, it's a leveler. It's going to have a long-term impact, keeping aside the fact that how COVID turns around. If this COVID lasts longer, I think it doesn't matter which category we are in. I think it's going to be some serious negative impacts. Keeping that aside, but if it does, it is a short-term thing, then I think it's really up to us as a brand as to how much we can convert this. All the connect that we made now, how much can we really stand up to true in terms of quality and after-sales service and consumer benefits that we offer?
Yeah, but if everything is very feel-good, what about the core merits and the core benefits of the brand? Shouldn't we tactically also send out messaging like that, which talks about the brand, not about the feel-good factor alone? Because what happens is then the merits are forgotten. Then, for me, I have an American brand which I paid 1,25,000 for the mattress for, and I don't use it much because it's supposed to be orthopedic and all that. I'm talking about your category, but across all categories. So the challenge is, unless I'm kind of reminded about the brand again and again, rather than just feeling good, because there's too much of feel good going around. Too much of feel good.
No, absolutely. So if you remember what I spoke about, ours is not only feeling good. First of all, our campaign didn't start with just feeling good. It started very proactively with precautionary communication on taking stock of your health.
Sure.
And because our category does support that, one of the main pillars is the sleep for immunity. So we could make that precautionary communication. Our feel-good communication came in just last week when I think the whole after 20-day excitement was shut down by a second phase of lockdown. So that's when we felt an emotional connect is required. The third phase is now prepping for e-com to reopen and also setting a base for the future. So a lot of efforts now is going into, as you said, putting a lot of content out there on the benefits, on the real, touch, see and feel kind of benefits that the product offers. So that's something that we are building on as a base. The way we are taking on is very, instead of doing an annual plan and quarterly plan, I think what we are doing now is really dissecting marketing from an actual moment truth. From a period of, let's say, 1 week or tomorrow, how is the mood like in terms of communication? Because it's changing very drastically. I mean, just for me as an individual, the day the second phase of lockdown was announced, while I knew it's going to come, I think all me and my friends, in spite of being experienced enough, we were quite somber, right? So you don't know when moods change and when it hits you. So in that sense, we are doing very momentary conversation and really taking stock of what the mood is in real time. Apart from that, I think we're really focusing on building a base of content, of communicating, especially on digital platforms, because on traditional categories like ours, that's something which is not so strong as yet. So we are building that
Speak Well, I
base.
think, has been promoting itself on Doordarshan. Speak Well, if I'm correct.
Yes. So they've started now. We started with news channels in the first phase, and they've also started. So yeah, I mean, the category starts communicating, and then a lot of brands join in. So that's great for everybody to talk about it. Also, as Harjot said, we're also using this time to see a lot of partners because we don't have a very strong existing partner network in terms of agencies. We are utilizing this time to hear a lot of pitches. And he very rightfully mentioned, for us, it's a great time to judge agencies in terms of agility and actual passion for the category and how much they can put forth. Because there are a lot of agencies who are saying, it's not going to convert and not taking this seriously. And that really becomes a clear differentiator for us. So I think from that perspective, also as a client, it's a great time to interact with new partners, potential partners who can really, in these tough times, deliver for us and in the future, be with us. So all in all, I think it's totally taught us a different way of approaching business and our work. And we wouldn't have got this experience in any other way if I have to put it positively. So yeah, that's how we.
Yes, Prachi, and then after that, Sanjay, and then.
So I'm going to talk about how we are looking at this entire space of making the brand continuity along with the business continuity stay. From a Big Bazaar perspective, I think there is nothing better than most of us said that how a consumer feels from a brand at this point of time is absolutely on the top rather than what he hears. For us, it is extremely imperative from that perspective that Big Bazaar's operations and services are bang on, spot on. From a fashion perspective and this I say with all humility, all humbleness that we have. We definitely are in a space wherein we are looking at massive backlog on the spring summer collection that is already there in the market. That's already there in most of the e-com platforms, most of the marketplaces. That's definitely a major backlog that we are seeing on the spring summer collection. Will we go tactical? Would the rumors of whenever the market opens up, there will be massive discounts on stock stay true? At this point of time, it's very difficult to look at that space and say that, okay, we will not go tactical or we will go only the feel-good way. This is the space wherein all of us are charting our business continuity plan, and we are looking at what is the way to maximize the cash inflow, what is the way to actually look at this collection and find out a way to liquidate this, because this will actually open up ways to bring the next collection, which in India matters a lot, which is the festive collection, and finally moving into the winter collection. From a fashion perspective, I as a brand, specifically I'll speak about FBB as a brand, we are not in a space wherein we have a massive brand leverage on any product. We are a mass brand. We speak on price, and hence for us, this space is a good space to be, primarily because most of us in this space wherein we are looking at reduced amount of cash inflow for in our personal accounts also, we definitely are going to look for brands which are going to be, will be trading down on brands. So hence for us as a brand, I see this space not being a very difficult space to be, from the perspective of how if you're losing if I'm losing my customer at this point of time. From a fashion perspective, I'm not very worried about it.
Everybody should be happy that a person like you buys an Armani as well as he picks up something from FPP also.
Thank you so much.
Not because of anything else, but not for the price, but it's something which I like.
Great. Oh, great. And that actually matters a lot to us, because primarily this is what we have been crying ourselves on, saying that we definitely have a great product and a fabulous price. And the price is going to be a hook. We want it or not, there's going to be a hook with people having reduced amount of monies floating into their salary accounts, or are being extremely cautious about how they spend. This something reminds me of the lipstick effect, which happened way back in the last recession, wherein when the entire beauty industry saw a huge upsurge in lipstick, because that's the only thing which gives women the happiness that they'll be able to spend on something at least. So while the entire industry went into a recession, the lipstick sales actually went up, which is why the entire lipstick effect came into the space. So hence, I think this is one space we definitely are going to keep positive about.
Fantastic. Ajay, what about you in terms of having the brand continuity?
So I think we are also into the fashion and lifestyle segment, and I completely agree with Prachi. And we have a similar sense about the fashion and lifestyle segment. We feel, and this is my personal opinion, that in terms of the consumer, the buying behavior might change a little bit, and that might be a short-term, temporary kind of phenomenon. But we feel that after this lockdown period, definitely the people and the consumer, they need some kind of pleasure to derive from. And we feel that watches, and in India, watches are primarily seen as a kind of investment. Watches are something which can really lift your mood, and it really stands for your personality. So we feel that being a very small ticket item, and once this lockdown period gets over, there would be a little sense of euphoria amongst the consumers, and therefore they might like to indulge in some kind of shopping extravaganza, where they like to buy those small ticket items, which not only stands for good investment, but also give them a great value as far as their lifestyle is concerned. So I think it will be very interesting to see, and we are really looking forward to it.
So you're looking for that euphoric moment but your timings is more affordable than Titan, if I'm correct.
We operate in the similar price segment, and being an international brand, we have some global styles which are a little expensive, but over the period of last couple of years, we have seen traction coming from not only the watch lovers but also from the watch collectors. So some of the old heritage watches got relaunched, like Q reissue, and Marlin Automatic. So there are a couple of good watches which got launched in USA, and we saw good demand coming from watch collectors in India. Those were a little expensive, but as far as the price segment is concerned, we operate in the same mass premium segment.
But you're more youthy, right? Your brand is more youthy as compared to the Titan. It's targeted, at least from what I remember, Timex was meant for younger people.
Yes.
Your Fast Track, which is for even younger people.
Yes, Fast Track is totally for Gen Z generation, and whereas Timex is concerned, it is mainly for millennials.
That's right. Yeah. So the price segment was, unless it's gone up in the time frame that I used to look at Timex.
So presently for Timex, we are operating, our average price point is about 3,500 rupees. And our watches, mainly because of our distribution segment, because we are present in different parts of the world. There are about 4,000 retail stores, and then mom and pop stores, they contribute to a sizable size of our business. So that's mainly because of that. But if I take the premium channels into consideration, which are the modern format, modern trade stores, and the brand's own website, the shop.timexindia.com, from where we sell all our flagship hero styles. So the average price point is about 8,000, 9,000 rupees coming from these channels.
Okay, great. Now back to the agencies now. So Sanjay, what lessons have you learned? And are your clients talking to you a lot more nowadays?
So some of the clients are definitely talking a lot more. Some are genuinely very busy grappling the operations of their business because they are hurt a little more for different reasons. There's going to be cash flow challenges and other things, but there are several lessons learned. I think if anything, what is driven home with this change, and I think Prachi hinted at it, is that people are going to be very cost conscious. So when we think in terms of the whole marketing side of it, and there was marketing which was just about brand building and just about feel good, and maybe even creative, which was done to win awards. The shift from there will be very strongly to marketing that actually delivers on business goals, continuing to deliver. And we happen to have a very strong vertical in marketing automation. In fact, it's also active even at this point, because with the marketing automation side, you're reaching out to your existing customers with a very specific and relevant conversation to both their buying history or whatever else we know about them, and to the current scenario and current times, and delivering a most relevant communication to each as an individual versus some one-size-fits-all blast, which we do. Now, with that kind of clear journey building, the kind of measurability around it, and then leading it towards an actual measurability of results, that essentially marketing spend, if it has to continue to happen, the investments continue to happen, the CFOs of the world are going to be extremely sensitive to be able to prove that this is worth it and it's actually helping grow the business, especially in tough times. So having had the focus to such strategic approaches, I think whichever brand, whichever agencies, and we believe we are one of those who focus on delivering business results, I think will be extremely relevant in current times in terms of the marketing side of lesson learned. Beyond that, of course, as I was mentioning in the earlier part, there is a learning very clearly that these kinds of events, we read enough that there may be a second wave, or there may be a third wave, or there may still be a continuing extent of social distancing which will have to be maintained in some or the other way. So I'm not seeing business as usual or life as usual happening. So if that is going to be the case, the whole work from home, managing to work seamlessly on a remote means collaborating across work, people working around clients as well as agency folk, and yet delivering good result is another thing which is here to stay. And both clients as well as agencies are learning that very quickly, and it's going to stay with us. So I think tightening of belt, making sure money spent in marketing works to delivering desired business results, working seamlessly across remote locations, all of these are learnings for sure. And the client conversations are increasingly now about potential post-COVID scenario, that what are the different likely likelihood in terms of where the business is going, what is the change in consumer behavior. So this, a lot of data which we have about consumer behavior was based on life which was before COVID. That the millennial is very experience seeking, and he doesn't, he lives for the day, or all the different kind of audience segments. A lot of them will see fundamental shifts in behavior, not just a temporary phenomenon, because a lot of home truths will come through that, look, hey, if I didn't save enough because I went for that backpacking trip and now I'm losing a job, what do I do next 3 months till I find the next job or something? And suddenly the realization that maybe, I should be putting away some money to savings next time around comes through. So and such and many other truths will lead to a shift in behavior, and brand strategies and communication strategies will need to continuously adapt to the changing consumer. So that's going to be another thing to grapple with.
Wow, this is like the entire target is shifting and you don't know where to damn well hit. It's going to be very, very challenging for all of us. Harjot, in terms of an agency, I mean, all of y'all, is print going to be relevant going forward? We've learned to live without it. We are living in digital versions now, coming out, PDFs.
So print, you got to look at it from the role it plays, and will that role be relevant? Because if someone else is filling that role, there's one thing is that the role stays relevant and some other medium fills that role. The other thing is that role relevant itself or not? Print used to be, and for a lot of our clients, it continues to be a favorite of the trade more than a favorite of the consumer. Because the trade sees that advertising a lot more as in my market, for me, delivering and creating local results. Now, the minute that role is taken of print, and that's one of the roles that print plays, you will see out of home or digital nibble away at that stage.
So it's nibbling away a lot.
Already nibbling away, and I think it will just go much further post-crisis. So to that extent, print will lose. And
because I think when Jen sees the writing on the wall, he's just laid off a huge number of staff. HT has gone for cuts.
And the Benton Coleman Group has invested very heavily in the digital part of that business. I mean, the kind of data mining and solution that they are coming up with will be what the future will be. So they are moving the business model slowly but surely. But in fact,
it's still print heavy. It's very heavily print.
Correct. And in fact, we had one of the people who was working with Benton Coleman for a very long time, my ex-boss actually, he came and had a talk with our teams shortly before this sometime, and he gave us the whole case study of how Times of India beat the print recession, so to speak. It was one of the only growing units where most other print houses were seeing a thing, and how they reinvented themselves, how the approach to news was changed and all. So what they did was they basically changed the role of print. Forget from an advertising perspective, from a news perspective. If print was at one time the authority and analytical piece that people went to, it actually brought itself very close to the kind of news that today television is also trying to go after, which is relevant, catching depth of it, and the editorial or the point of view piece became just 2 pages in the middle. Most of it was getting the kind of local news and localization going for it. And that's what helped them beat it. I mean, I understand it to that extent from their business perspective. But having said that, as I said, will that role be relevant? That role from a newspaper point of view will be relevant. So the localization bit of news will become even more important. Look at what we are going through right now. I see the world figures, the US figures, the Italy figures, and everywhere else. What the biggest problem I have? What is happening on Golf Course Road in Gurgaon? How many cases are there? Which areas have been shut down or locked down by the cops? Has there really been a case in those buildings across the road or not? These are the things that are troubling.
Municipalities have become more responsive. If you go to the municipal corporation and Mumbai, they've started putting that information, local information, a lot out there. So that's right.
So that is the problem for print, that their role is going to be threatened by many different places in very different ways. The minute they try to adapt it, there is a threat to it. So the nimbleness required for print to survive is a challenge for the media owners, and
So
I'm
the
sure they're
COVID
looking at
crisis
it.
has changed the way possibly change the way we will communicate, because I'm not that habituated. I get 7 newspapers a day. I'm not missing them. No, I'm not getting them anymore.
Not at all. Not at all.
So
In fact,
will you need to communicate through that medium? I'll leave it to the marketers to answer. Let the marketers also.
in my view, it will have a role from the trade point of view still, but I don't see it a very large role from a consumer point of view.
Okay, is Prachi, Ajay, are you all agreeing to this? Smita?
Yeah, I think I can speak from my past experience as well, and even the current one across categories. I think over a period of last 2-3 years, brands which were consumer first and understanding that where the consumption was happening, I think they've already reduced the role of print. But there could be opportunities for print to reinvent, and that's for the brains there to really think of whether they're really a news medium or is it a medium of some sort of knowledge or I don't know, maybe a mini book, so it's really their survival instinct which should come into play. As far as medium of advertising goes, for us, it wasn't also going to be for this year, irrespective of COVID, main strategy. And as Harjot said, it was restricted to only probably dealers who would push for it because their vision would be towards that. So for us, it's reduced even more, which already was the case. And I would think a lot of categories would be in the similar boat.
Okay, thank you, Ajay.
I see a temporary disruption in print being an investment, a media investment. When I say temporary, I don't mean a month or two. It might be that print, the pie of print in my marketing spend will definitely reduce or shrink for the next 8 months, 9 months. But I think it will come back with a stronger voice once we see the momentum on an upswing. I think it will just have a flow back.
Ajay, you'll be advertising your distributors or retailers. You'll do that overall campaign for your trade, right? Will that
exactly.
Or will you use notifications, SMSing, WhatsApp, and other mediums to reach out to them, which are cheaper?
Yeah. So I agree with Harjot's point. First of all, during these times, we are not missing any print copies of any newspapers. In fact, on our WhatsApp, I get all the newspapers, be it one particular. So coming back to the point, we have to see the role the print industry plays. Right now, the role of the print newspaper is mainly for big announcements. When there are big billion day sales, when there is a new iPhone launch. So the role of newspaper in today's scenario is to make those big announcements.
So this was yesterday's scenario, in my opinion.
Yeah, yesterday's scenario. If you look at the print scenario in the last couple of years, the main role of newspaper is to make big announcements.
So is that relevant anymore? Or do I take a YouTube entire, the header? I take a YouTube header, I take Facebook, I take...
Exactly. So coming back to that point, so one is the role the newspaper plays. So from the days of building aspiration, now making big announcements. And secondly, the newspaper space is so cluttered. I mean, the front jacket, top jacket, flap jacket, there are so many jackets. There is hardly any room for smaller brands. Now coming back to another point, which is that newspaper used to play an important role as far as the dealer motivation is concerned. Because trade partners, they used to see ads coming in newspapers, and therefore they used to feel obliged towards the brands. But over the period of last couple of months, we have seen a shift happening in the minds of our retailers and our trade partners, where social media marketing and influencer marketing is playing an important role. So if you take an influencer on board, if you take a celebrity on board and get those videos done from those celebrities and talk about the USP or product, and then reach out to your trade partners, they kind of feel attached towards the brand and they feel motivated towards the brand. So in my opinion, I think print is anyway declining. After this COVID situation, the marketing spends are going to shrink. And if marketing spends are going to shrink, that advertisers will prefer to spend more on digital. So I think print will anyway take a good beating out of this situation.
So in terms of digital, you're looking at what, diverting 40% of your budget or towards digital, and 40% on TV and the rest 20% on print?
So our the growth of these spends medium-wise. So we have seen the heaviest growth coming in the digital segment. So a few years back it was 10%. In today's time it is approximately 40% of our investment which we do on digital. And the least priority for us right now is TV, because we don't do too much of TV advertisements. We do more of social media, video marketing through YouTube and through Facebook and through other mediums. So TV is one, and then for some niche brands, for niche launches, new launches, some new excitement times, we use print newspapers.
So that is where agencies like Miram and Dentsu can come into play, and all the sister agencies where they can actually do deep data mining. They can actually work closely with you all to on programmatic as well as other. This is to all the marketers. So
in some of the regional markets like Hindi newspapers or Vernacular newspapers, if you have a tactical promotion going on in a particular Kerala market during that Onam period, or maybe in Tamil Nadu. So at that point in time, the regional newspapers tend to play an important role. But largely, as far as the top strata of your consumer segment is concerned, we feel that digital is more relevant as compared to print.
So is that common for Smita and Prachi and on the brand side? Is that also something?
Yeah, I mean that's precise. That's more or less the pie that we are definitely looking at. The skew that Ajay has been mentioning is more or less the same. There is a lot of focus on what you mentioned right now, is a lot of data cleaning and a lot of automation is going to be the truth of everybody's life at this point in time. And I don't see that any brand who's going to be stay focused on the communication, personalized communication, is going to stray away from marketing automation.
And also you're looking at deep data and then addressing those. Correct me, Smita.
Yes. So for us, while this is true, a little more of data mining is what we're going to do, because we do believe that a lot of regional consumption is going to happen digitally also. And therefore, vernacular communication on digital, which otherwise we wouldn't have thought of. So we were also initially looking at splitting digital for a more evolved English audience and print for regional consumption. But I think digital is going to get more and more vernacular with OTTs and a lot of content going out there in different languages. So even for regional communication, I think we look at digital more strongly. TV plays a very important role for us, and TV as a medium itself has grown because of the whole in-home scenario, which will continue even if the lockdown gets removed. So TV is again something that's going to drive a lot of mass relevance. I think digital and TV will be our main mediums while we drive a lot of other things for conversion.
Fantastic. So that's good news for somebody like Rahul. Boss, you're running a Marathi product on Shemarumu. You're running Gujarati products on that, offering different channels on that. So that's good news for you.
Yeah, for the moment, I agree actually with Anil. But as a brand, we also need to market and get more consumers on board for our OTT or for other products. So while we play a role of advertisers to reach out to consumers, we also need to advertise at the same time to get more consumers to be on board. So for us, it's actually a tricky situation. The print has been fairly successful for most media brands to advertise on, create the right impact and the reach as well. So for us, for regional offerings, it's going to be a tough call. How do we build audience bases there? OTT, yes. So on our advertising piece, the only concern we'll have is, the OTT advertisement can't operate at the same CPMs as some of the other publications can. So will the premium be offered to, the OTT offerings on, the content which has been curated at a lot of expense? That's the sort of debates we're having right now. And we don't really see that in a very, very positive light at the moment. Advertising spends as they shrink, the CPMs will drop overall.
Even for digital, you're saying?
Even for digital, yeah. Yeah. And the other impact is that a lot of online publishers, actually the main business is print. So their revenue comes from print, and then they publish a lot of content online as well. Now, what's going to be the impact when the main business collapses or starts to see a slow? Will there be less of content being offered from publishers online, and then hence less advertising opportunities? So it's a spiral effect as well. So we'll have to wait and watch how this emerges.
Yeah. Anyone wants to throw in some thoughts on that?
So I just wanted to, this is something that we are seeing with a lot of clients, that there is a during the crisis period and post the crisis period. If we just break it into these parts, nobody did anything before the crisis, so that's fair. During the crisis period, I think when you're threatened, when your cash flow, when your business is threatened to that extent, it is tempting and it is proper to go after the lower funnel conversion activities, because that is the base on which you will then convert quickly, get your cash flows in, revive your business to a level where you're steady enough to now start investing in again, getting newer people into the funnel. So if we look at it that way, it is very clear. That's why most of the marketers will, especially just as they come out of the crisis, there will be a lot more emphasis on mining that data, reaching out one-on-one, converting them at the right point, and what is the digital infrastructure that is available to help them do that. Because some clients have invested in an internal infrastructure that I'm sure Future Group and all have done. But a lot of clients have to ride on someone else's data infrastructure to be able to create those conversions. So that is going to be the dynamic I feel that we'll see just post the crisis, and that's going to be a big one. A few months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, I wish I could predict better.
I'm predicting by the entire economy will start getting some steam somewhere around October, November. Until September, we are kind of screwed.
That's what we are all hoping for, because
September.
in any case, our festive season kicks in at that time, and if that time purchasing comes back, then there will be post that. I think there will be a push that will be the epitome of conversion of people who are already on the fence or within the funnel. But post that is when brands will have to make serious plans on how to get more and more people feeding that funnel so that the conversion process continues.
But a lot of the launches which are postponed, which didn't happen in this phase.
That's right.
The first 2 quarters. I don't know how it's going to roll out, because you're going to be in winter months at that time, approaching winter.
It's going to be tricky. It's going to be very tricky.
So in terms of Prachi is going to have a challenge with the spring-summer collection.
Yes.
When yes, yours is a massy brand, but again, we're all living in very, very edgy times. It's been fantastic talking to you all. Any last words in terms of, going forward, what do we see happening as far as your specific, job profiles and roles are concerned, one, and as far as activities that you will be performing are concerned in the next, let's say, 3 to 4 months, 6 months?
Actually, if you don't mind, I
Please
just
go ahead, Sanjay.
look back to one question you asked some time back, and which was about, what if a brand is not available and consumer misses it, and whether it will be replaced, whether the brand can sort of get back the market post crisis or whatever. So I see that at a slightly larger level, that, going through this crisis, there are both not just brands, but entire categories which are getting challenged because of various reasons. I mean, if you look at categories like travel or tourism or something, or mass sports events, now they are not available today.
Absolutely.
They're not available in the near future. But as a consumer, there was still that I was consuming those activities, whether it's sports or travel. Now, if I have to do a vacation and if I can't go abroad, it's going to be replaced. And if I get a replacement which is attractive enough, maybe I change a habit. And it's the same thing with, let's say, the newspapers you were talking about. You get 7 newspapers. When you took a week vacation and came back, you continued back with those 7 newspapers. But now if you're out of it for a couple of months, in the meantime, you've formed newer habits which seem to be equally enriching and getting you all the data, information that you're looking for. Would you go back? Right? And then it translates down to brands, right? So today, because of the supply restrictions, I may not be able to go to a certain favorite store of mine, and I'm making do with whoever is arranging supplies to my home today. Whether we will go back or we'll find something else. So there are some challenges that a lot of categories and brands are going to face, especially considering the length of time that we're going to be away from those categories and brands, and maybe new habits get formed. In that scenario, what have those challenged brands and categories been doing, if anything, if at all they could do anything, to sort of still remain relevant to their consumers, keep the interest so that they could come back when things became normal and try to recover that space in the consumer brand? And I'm seeing that not too many have done enough. I mean, in newspapers, there's a classic case. I think they have let their position be at risk because people are adopting other means, whether it's news apps or third-party other news, and instead of remaining loyal to let's say the e-paper version of the same habit that you had for so many years, and same is the case with many other brands. So that's it's a challenge that whether recovery will happen for some categories or some brands or not post resumption is something to see.
Yeah. So coming back again now, each of you will have another 5 minutes or 3 minutes each to talk about what you all see yourself doing between now, the potential reopening up fully maybe by August, September, and there'll be a gradual opening up. Already some categories, some sectors are being allowed to open up and go back to work. So each of you all, if you all can speak between now and maybe hallelujah, next October, November, December, when we'll be more busier than ever doing actual conversion campaigns, actually seeing products go off shelves. Not because we need, not because we are forced to buy them, but because we want to buy them. Yeah, each of you begin.
So may I go first this time?
Please go ahead.
Okay. And this is it's a really pertinent question, and it's what keeps us up at night in our world also, because so much is changing in the advertising communication world. Because at the end of the day, we are demand partners of clients. We are on the demand side.
Yes.
Now, demand partners have to be in touch with the consumer sentiment. 2019 has not been a good sentiment from a consumer perspective. 2020 beginning is even worse. Now it's all about, once we get out of it, how well are we able to track the sentiment for our client as a brand and the segment that they operate in. Because there are two, broadly, I mean, there can be many but broadly there are two reactions that could come up. One is the disease comes under control very well, and all of a sudden, it's like swine flu. It exists even today, but you don't worry about it because there is Tamiflu to take care of it, and that's fine. Now it's not such a big issue. If it reaches that level quickly, you could have a scene of this whole crisis actually delivering a sentiment of, God, bach gaye. You only live once, let's go. And there are a lot of categories that you would still stay away from, maybe travel and holidays abroad and all, because of the social distancing dynamic. But that expenditure will come out. It'll be almost pent up if the feeling comes across of bach gaye. The other side is that, oh shucks, the world is in upheaval and this is going to go on for some time. This is not going to be, and hence you become very, very safe in your approach. At that time, from a demand perspective, we will have to work with clients much closer to help them juice out everything that is already within the funnel and whatever little is trickling into the funnel. Because at that time, it will be about efficiency and performance media led. So from our point of view, as demand partners for clients, if we are not able to help, support and guide through either of these scenarios, because if the you only live once attitude comes back, it'll open up, really filling up the funnels, and how do you get extra reach, and is your messaging relevant, and are you able to be relevant and interesting for people, for consumers at large to keep coming towards you. But should the sentiment go safe, are you in a position to help them juice out the last bit from the performance work, from the data that can be accessed from whichever means possible, and how do you help them with very, very specific communication and performance strategies that deliver cash flow till the good times come back. So these are going to be the two things, and I think we have about another 45 days where we are at the Dentsu group. We have 23 companies which do various kinds of demand side work, and we are making sure that each one is linked with each other so that we are able to offer the best of the service to our client the minute it opens up, and once we have a slightly better understanding. Actually, and one of the biggest things we are asking most clients is that the minute in May itself, by end May, if your sales team are getting out into the market, can you connect us to your regional sales head for at least a bi-weekly call so that we start getting a feel of that sentiment right away from the ground and have our strategies ready immediately what needs to be actioned of. Because speed is going to be of the essence in this period now.
Fantastic. Now, whoever wants to speak next on the question I asked.
So I'll quickly put my point of view forward. I think the role of CMOs and marketing departments itself should change, if not already. We should play a more meaningful role because it's no more about selling what product is already made. It's about understanding consumer behavior and really making that business relevant. So for us as marketers, our role is already changing to really lead digital transformation. So I also lead e-commerce and the whole digital transformation from a business point of view, from a consumer point of view, not from really technology or operation, but business point of view. Plus also, what is consumers going to really behave like within the category? What kind of products may have demand? So it's not a very existing demand scenario that will, be prevalent. But how can you preempt a demand of categories which is within your business scope and may come up a lot faster? That's a role marketing can play. We are also really looking at taking back methods of selling, reaching out to consumers. So really setting up maybe sales strategies for the sales team, which is more consumer first versus this channel already exists and let's serve that. So I think the role of marketer is totally up to us to really make it evolve and make real business sense out of it. And I think the time is now for us to be relevant to the whole business itself. So that's the way we are looking at it.
Fantastic. One news, I was reading an article, in which Publicis CEO he said, this is the worst time that we've ever faced, that the ad market is going to go negative by beyond what happened in 2009 and 8. It's going to go negative close to 20% this year globally. So that's another challenge. You'll have less money to play with.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're looking at yourselves, and I'm speaking purely from a client point of view, obviously for advertisers, it's not going to be so easy. But I think from a client's point of view, you need to make yourself more relevant to the business. If you're looking at yourselves just as spend stations and advertisers, then obviously it's not the right time to do much. But if you're looking at teams which are really connecting consumers to the business, and how do you take that data and knowledge and make business sense out of it, then I think it's a very key team right now. So it totally depends on how you're going to pitch yourself and what you're capable of. That'll really drive whether you're worth being in the business or not as marketers.
Yeah, so Ajay, Ajay to you.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly...
Going forward, the next the hallelujah phase where God, sales are ticking.
I think all the points are already covered. So in my view, the role of marketers would be next couple of months. Firstly, it's a very unprecedented kind of situation, unexpected. It's very, very difficult to gauge what's going to happen, how soon we will get back to normalcy. So in that situation, the role of marketer...
You might never get back to normalcy. The new normal is not being normal.
Yes, exactly. So the role of marketer, I think in my view, would be to stay cautious and vigilant about what's happening all around us. Pay close attention to the consumer behavior. And once the market opens, we'll have to be very, very close to our consumers, understand their buying behavior, and then accordingly make your marketing and sales strategy. So in terms of the strategies and actions for marketing, we'll all have to be very, very flexible to adapt to any kind of change which you might see in the behavior of our consumers. And one important point, I think the game changer or the most important point would be the assessment of the demand. So most of the organizations who are really paying close attention and very, very cautious about the demand assessment and gearing up their supply chain accordingly will have an upper edge in terms of serving the consumers.
Thank you. And who's left? Prachi is left and Rahul's left.
So, there's nothing that Ajay and Smita said that which doesn't hold true. And I don't think that since the past 5-6 years, our role has actually been what it was, in fact, earlier. So, I think just adding on to that, most of us would be looked at as business champions more than anything else at this point of time or in the future as well. There is no way we are going to be looked as an expense department or as an expense head. We definitely are going to be looked at something which is going to be absolutely ingrained in the business rather than standing outside it and taking offensively.
Great. Sanjay, last words, and Rahul.
Yeah. So, very specifically to the question you asked, at this point, when I say at this point, it is lockdown and post-lockdown, while it is still crisis time, if I may say, I think the focus is very clearly to, work closely with the clients one-on-one and figure, the minimal strategy for them in terms of communication, in terms of any specific things that are relevant at this point, even while business is still figuring its way to resuming at a little better run rate and everything. So it's just to be a good partner and just work with the client as close as possible to find some things which are relevant enough to do. Parallelly, work on creating a certain post-COVID strategy for each of them. When let's say you say September, October, whenever things come back to a certain more mature level of resumption, what is it that's relevant? Now, things like marketing automation are big. I mean, we are already a very large player in that space, and as we heard on this panel itself, and we get the same kind of feelers from outside. I mean, we are a big partner. We are a gold consulting partner for Salesforce.com, which is a huge marketing automation player. They have not stopped hiring, neither in India nor in San Francisco. They are continuing to hire every open position. They believe that this is still a very right time for them. And it works same way for us. So we're going to create more strategies in this area for our existing clients as well as for new businesses where the opportunity will be. In fact, there is this statement which is running that what all of our efforts did not do in terms of pushing the digital transformation agenda, COVID has done it for us. That from a belief in the mind of the marketer and the business. So we will be ready, keeping ourselves ready to grab those opportunities once business returns, at a even keel. And we'll be waiting for that with our clients as well as new businesses. So that's what.
Doesn't it worry you what Smita said, that they're checking out the agencies right now? I mean, doesn't that worry you? Are your clients checking out other agencies?
But I'm glad to know. So I'm going to send a mail to Smita after this.
Okay, Rahul, last word.
I think last words from me. I think as marketers, what I and the teams where Shimano want to be doing is bring in agility in everything we do. I think, we'll have agile marketing plans, agile consumer cohorts. The new normal hasn't been defined. So
the new normal is that there's no normal.
There's no normal. So, there's no way for us to know what we're doing is right or wrong. Essentially, we're going to focus a lot on performance. Things which actually bring value back immediately is what we're going to work on in the new normal. And essentially, as a marketer, I think I will slowly see my role moving on more towards partnerships and things which are actually getting more and more outreach for the brand.
And also results?
Also results,
Convergence, yeah.
Convergence, yeah. So performance and growth are the two focus areas for us from an OTT perspective at least. And yeah, as I mentioned, I think we're going to just be agile, be open to anything which comes our way, like we've seen it now. So I don't want to set any marketing rules or plans in cast in stone at this stage. We'll progress and make changes accordingly.
Thank you very much. You all guys have been wonderful, and I think it's been a very insightful session for me at least. I hope it's been the same for you all. You want to make a point? Please go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I was reading Ray Dalio of Bridgewater. He has a very nice quote. He's saying a crisis is a terrible thing to waste because it's where everyone is vulnerable, and the ones who are able to innovate faster, move faster, change faster, you can get a head up, which will not come in normal days and normal weeks. So I think that's what we are looking at. This is, I think, a chance for all of us, whether it's from the marketing side, whether it's from a communication community, whether it's from a digital performance community. It's a chance for us to innovate and get in ahead right now. And I hope this chance doesn't come very often in any case.
I hope it doesn't. Business is crazy. Yeah, but close. Star has just cut salaries. Z has just cut salaries. So it's happening. There's a bloodbath happening out there. There's money in the hands of consumers. When we were actually being looked at, our growth is falling to 1.6% when we were growing at 8% 3 years ago. So it's a bit of a story. But the good news is that India is going to bounce back in 21 in a massive way that you can't even imagine, 2021. So let's look for that, keep that in our horizon and be hopeful. And as marketers, look at this young population that India is, and be happy that we are in a country like India compared to Italy, which has a massive old population which is getting decimated. France, a lot of these other countries are losing a lot of their population. So thank you, you all guys have been wonderful, and it's been very, very insightful.
Thank you.
I hope it's been insightful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anil.
Thanks.
Everyone.
Thanks, Anil.